They say some places are better left forgotten. But what happens when someone goes searching for answers and brings something back with them? This is the story of Mary, Ellwood Manor, and the Hollow, a tale that will make you question what lies beneath the surface of our world. It began with a whisper. At least, that's how Mary described it later, though she couldn't recall whether it came from the wind slipping through the cracks of the old Ellwood Manor or from somewhere deeper, somewhere closer. Ellwood Manor was one of those places that everyone in town knew but no one ever visited. Perched on a hill just outside the sleepy town of Greystone, the manor loomed like a corpse, grey, hollow-eyed, and decaying. It had been empty for over 50 years since the Ellwood family vanished without a trace. Theories abounded: murder, madness, perhaps even something occult. But no one dared to find out, except for Mary. She wasn't reckless by nature. Quiet, introspective, she preferred the company of her books and her vintage record player to people. But the stories about Ellwood Manor had always nagged at her mind. When she found an old diary in the local thrift store, a battered leather book with EE etched into its cover, her curiosity turned into an obsession. The diary belonged to Elizabeth Ellwood, the last member of the Ellwood family, and its final entries were fragmented, strange. The hollow grows hungry. It sings to me in the night, from beneath the floors. If I answer, will it be enough? I must feed the hollow. I must become. Tomorrow it ends. Tomorrow I will give myself to it. The rest of the pages were empty. Mary was no detective, but she felt something stir deep inside her when she read those words. Something primal, a mix of fear and need. She had to know what happened to Elizabeth. So, on an overcast October afternoon, Mary parked her battered sedan at the overgrown gates of Ellwood Manor and stepped inside. The air in the manor was thick, stale, and somehow expectant. Dust coated every surface, cobwebs draped from the ceiling like forgotten veils. Mary moved cautiously, clutching the diary to her chest. She started in the drawing room, where faded portraits of the Ellwoods stared down at her with hollow eyes. From there, she wandered through the parlour, the kitchen, and finally to the grand staircase that led upstairs. Each creak of the wood beneath her feet seemed impossibly loud. Then she heard it, a faint sound, like a hum coming from below. The basement. Elizabeth's words echoed in her mind. It sings to me in the night, from beneath the floors. Mary hesitated for only a moment before descending into the dark. The basement was colder than the rest of the house. Her flashlight beam cut through the murk, illuminating piles of broken furniture, scattered papers, and something else. A trapdoor set into the stone floor. Mary crouched beside it. The hum was louder here, vibrating against her ribs, against her skull. With trembling fingers, she pulled the trapdoor open. The darkness beneath was alive. When Mary didn't return home that evening, her friend Simon grew worried. He was used to Mary disappearing into her obsessions, but she always answered her phone. Always. By morning, Simon had driven to Ellwood Manor. The manor was silent. It felt wrong, like the entire house was holding its breath. Simon moved room by room, calling Mary's name until he found the open trapdoor in the basement. There was no sign of her, only her flashlight, lying cold and dead on the floor. The search for Mary lasted 2 weeks. Volunteers, police officers, and even psychics combed the manor and the surrounding woods, but it was as if Mary had vanished into thin air. Eventually the search was called off. People said she'd fallen into some hidden cavern system, that the manor had claimed her like it had the Ellwoods. But Simon couldn't accept that. 6 months later, on a quiet spring morning, Mary returned. Simon found her sitting on his porch, barefoot and wearing the same clothes she had disappeared in. Her hair was tangled, her skin pale as paper, but her eyes were sharp, clear, and impossibly calm. "Mary?" Simon whispered, unsure if he was dreaming. She smiled faintly. "Hi, Simon." He pulled her into his arms, trembling. "Where were you?" "What happened?" She didn't answer, not immediately. Instead, she looked up at the sky and said, "I heard it, Simon. The hollow. I heard it, and I understood." "Understood what?" Her smile widened, but it didn't reach her eyes. "Everything." Over the next few weeks, Mary settled back into her life, or something like it. She wasn't the same, though. She moved differently, slower, more deliberate. Her voice was softer, her laughter rarer. But it wasn't just her behavior that unsettled Simon. It was what she knew. She spoke of things she shouldn't have known, intimate secrets about their friends, obscure historical details, even events from Simon's childhood he'd never told anyone. "The hollow showed me," she would say when pressed. Simon asked her once, trembling, "What is the hollow, Mary?" She looked at him, and for a moment he swore her eyes were black pits stretching down into eternity. "It's everything, Simon. The hollow isn't empty, it's full. It's where everything ends and where everything begins again." He stopped asking after that. If you enjoyed this chilling tale, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell icon for more haunting stories here on Unholy Tales. Share this story with a friend who loves the eerie unknown, and remember, some places are better left undisturbed.